This is Shaun Sport in podcast form.
Well, the AFL are in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons this morning after MP Andrew Wilkie decided at federal parliament that he would tell everybody about a letter he received from a doctor that said they had involvement in AFL football. And he was talking about the drug policy or lack thereof and people cheating the system. Time to go to Matthew Pavlich, our man on the ground. He knows all this kind of stuff. And no doubt you will see him on 9 News tonight talking about it. Good morning, Pav.
Morning, Shorty. Morning, Nathan. How are we?
It's a pretty big story, Pav.
Yeah.
It's a huge story. And, they're pretty sensational allegations, aren't they? Which, as you talked about, Shawnee, were introduced under that Parliament privilege last night. I think the interesting bit here is going to be the AFL and their explanation of the principle and I guess the motivation here, and whether or not it actually does sit within the broader illicit drug policy. So let me kind of explain that.
Yes, please.
And so I think, players who maybe have registered tests previously, whether that be through the off-season and the hair testing policy, or just, the random testing that happens via Dorovich, which is the independent pathology group that do the testing on behalf of the AFL. Perhaps what's happened here is that there's been some target testing, and the target testing, which sits within the normal IDP, the illicit drug policy.
Yep.
Then these players have been target tested at some point, and this is the bit that's, I guess, the controversial bit, or the bit that no one really knows about except for the club doctor and the pathology group, is that if that player's been tested in the week and that they've registered a test or a strike,
yes,
then it sounds as though the allegations are at least that player's then been asked to sit out the game. So that's the bit that we all are in the dark about. So it's the AFL's place to explain that to us today and in the coming days.
So just to clarify, this test they're talking about was done by club doctors, not by the officials, and therefore they were trying to sidestep actually getting caught by the officials? Because that's what it seems to be presented as.
I think that's what's being alleged.
From the
AFL,
doctor.
I'm sure, will argue the fact that no, it's been done under the broader guise of the illicit drug policy.
So they would register as strikes against those players under the three strike.
Yep.
What? Yep. So keeping them away from getting the 3 strikes and then suspended?
No. So this is the important bit. So it's not about the 3 strikes. This is about keeping them away from actually going to a game day test and being tested by WADA under the Sports Integrity Australia relationship with the AFL. And then if they had an illicit substance in their system, they would be banned for 4 years.
Yeah.
AKA, Joel Smith from Melbourne at the moment. Willie Rioli had an incident on a game day more recently. He was obviously one who was sanctioned under the broader WADA policy, not the illicit drug policy. So this is more about, it comes back to the wellbeing and the medical process and policy that the AFL players and the AFL volunteered themselves to do, and trying to protect the players from themselves at missing a long period of time. Now, whether that is right or wrong, that's up to the general public and people like us to debate to the cows come home. But I think it's an interesting allegations, and it could be dismissed pretty quickly by the AFL, but it will be up to them to explain it and answer the questions, because lots of people are asking them today.
Well, the Prime Minister's weighed in on it, so it's gone right to the top.
Yeah, once things hit Parliament, everyone's got to make a spiel about it. I want to know...
But at its core, if there's any truth to it, it's not just a thing you throw your hands up to.
Yeah.
And this is the only way sometimes these things come out.
Yeah, but I think it's a truth to it, Nathan. It's an interesting thing because it's the AFL who elected. They don't have to do this at all to have their own drug policy. In other workplaces, they don't have that. We don't have that here.
Some workplaces do, though.
Yes.
No, but some. But they elected to try to be at the forefront of this.
But that's a sporting group, though. You can see why.
And if you have elected to do that across the entire competition, then everybody's got to adhere to it. You don't just get to pick and choose.
But what are the rules that say...
I think people are adhering to the rules, and this is a part of the broader
But are they
policy.
bending the rules here, do you think?
No, not well. from what I've heard from the allegation and what I've read, there is no bending of the rules. It's within the broader policy to, if someone registers a strike at some point, or they come back off the off season, they've done the hair testing, a player looks as though he might have got up to some mischief in the off season, then they will be target tested, and this is a part of the target testing policy thereafter the fact they've already had a strike. So this is more the nuance in the policy that the general public and the media in general haven't been aware of, and that's why it's become, it looks as though it's clandestine, it looks as though it's been hidden.
It looks like they're dodging it. They're trying to, they're protecting it. And I guess it's the lying about the injury kind of thing
and
that
also,
suggests it's dodgy.
If it was just a politician mouthing off, right? Saying something they heard.
Yeah.
But it's not.
But the fact that there's a doctor, a professional that has put their name to it, that has worked within a club,
and he doesn't,
that gives it
think
real legitimacy, because you sort of think, why would you?
And he would know
why
the
would
policy.
you risk your career over something so full on?
Yeah, no, I agree. But you're saying that this is an illegal thing.
There's another thing playing out here in the courts at the moment, which is the Glenn Bartlett, former Melbourne president, and allegations against the Melbourne Football Club, against Simon Goodman, against others. So there is a fair bit going on in the background here. So let's just put that on the table as, hey, there's other motivations and agendas being run.
Yeah.
But having said all that, I think to come back to the core of the issue here is that the AFL, I will argue that this is a part of the policy, and this is what we've been doing forever, and it is to protect the players from getting a 4-year ban on game day. Now, whether that's right or wrong is almost irrelevant, but that's the question to play here is that is what has been alleged a part of the policy, and if so, then the AFL will say, well, we're standing by the policy because it's a player welfare model and a medical model, regardless of the fact if you think it's right or wrong. Now, that's a broader debate that's been had about this policy for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I
guess what's going to happen
anywhere, that one.
now is that whenever, you see the team selection on a Thursday and somebody's been admitted due to illness,
and then a week later,
everybody's going to go,
and then a week later they're playing, and be like, oh, okay.
That's
a horrible thing.
I kind of get it, but like if you miss Monday and you say, you're a bit sick, like, why? Whose business is it specifically to know if it actually, are you sick? Or have you got a hamstring injury, or have you got a personal issue?
But don't you as players sacrifice some of that privacy because you are part of a team and you do have fans and people are invested?
I think that's from the outside world making those comments, Nath. I think saying that you should sacrifice this or you should be a leader in this area.
But I was talking about injuries just then, injuries.
And there is a published
you always
injury
know
list.
how a player's being injured.
Yeah.
It's part of the game, isn't it?
It literally tells you.
I don't know.
But also, right? Also, you're saying you can read the list and go, someone's out with a hamstring. Well, they're not going to. I mean, things can be seen by everybody, so they're not going to deny those. But they're also not going to give you the idea of how long it's going to be, how bad it's going to be. All those personal issues.
So they're fudging that anyway.
Well, it's not. The word fudging is they don't need to do that. It's a professional thing whether you're trying to get an edge, and it's no one's business if I'm going to be out for 4 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. Pav.
Yeah, I think we're talking about two different things there. One is
probably about 10 different things.
You're probably right.
I think there's hey, I've got a sore hamstring, and we'll give you some guidelines, broader public and media, so you can report on that. But that's a hamstring issue, it's a quad issue. That's hey, I've gone in for back surgery. Versus what was designed as a player welfare model to look after the players.
Yeah.
From a illicit drug policy and from a wellbeing policy. Hey, look, mate, you're getting up to mischief off the field. This is not good for your health. And if you keep doing it, you might have a big problem, like we've seen plenty of times. Or if you keep doing it and you get caught on game day, you're going to miss 4 years of footy and your career's over. So if you go back to the root cause of why they set this policy up, and by the way, like when I first heard this, Shawnee, I think you and I were probably I was against broadly the policy. I was like, well, hang on, you're playing elite sport, you're going to have to make some sacrifices, and one of those is what you choose to do. Get up to on a weekend. But the more that it was explained, the more that you understand that it's a pretty big issue broadly, I think your mind changes a little bit around the subject. But I think perhaps this is another one the AFL, together with the AFL Players Association, will have to revisit, and whether or not there's two things at play. One, they change the policy, or two, they're just more transparent to the broader public and the media about the topic.
The interesting thing that they brought in with Peter Wright getting suspended yesterday, I just used this word they've used in evolving community standards.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
I wonder if then this goes on to what we're talking about here. But Pav, thanks so much for your time here, mate.
We've learned, so as an AFL player, no drugs, of course, and no trampolines. Is that right?
Yes.
No.
On the weekends.
Yes.
On the weekend.
It's great advice.
Get you every time.
All round. Love your work, Pav.
Shaun Sport in podcast form.
A couple of things to quickly touch on. Cricket Australia announced that the summer of cricket will be kicking off here in November. In fact, November 22, when Australia plays India in the first test match of that 5-test series. It's really good news because normally we get the Afghanistan tests and some of these really low, like West Indies came here and played, but no one gave two rats' asses, to be honest.
Well, they also scheduled them to start on a Thursday when school's still in. Do you know what I mean? So it means that, and then they go, oh, nobody went. Yeah.
Oh,
so nobody cares about the actual thing, and no one likes the time it's on.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, Nathan, in that time slot that we had, number one, as a team, no one really wanted to go and see those teams play, even though they wanted to see Australia, perhaps. But at Optus Stadium, the sun coming into the stadium, it's pretty full on during the day.
Yeah,
pretty warm here before it gets over to the East Coast, where it's normally raining at that time of year.
We're always in corporate boxes. We don't know.
I've never experienced actual Perth weather.
Hopefully this will be a big win for WA cricket and a lot of people will get over and see India play, which would be good news. Hey, Lauren Jackson, only a few weeks ago they were saying that she wasn't going to put her hands up to play in the Australian Olympic team in Paris, and it looks like after the success of her South Coast Flyers beating our Perth Lynx,
they won the grand final,
that she's made herself available for the Paris Olympics, which would be her 5th.
Wow.
At the age of 42.
It's amazing. And she's still a gun. This is the thing.
And this is just her decision that she wants to do it.
Yeah, apparently she will be announcing the 26 person squad.
Pretty amazing, though, isn't it, that so many people fight their way to get to the Olympics, and she's at a stage of her career where she goes, yeah, I'll go.
Well,
it's brilliant.
Because they're begging her to go.
It's amazing.
They want her to go.
It's amazing.
On that level, though, so Kelly Slater was performing at Bells Beach. Has just got underway, right? So Kelly Slater won his match yesterday, and he was through to the round of 32 for the men's side of thing. And he was interviewed afterwards, and he was saying it's 30 years to the day that he first started competing in his first Bells tournament. I think he might have won it.
Wow.
30 years. The guy's 52, I think.
And he's still going.
Yeah. Just when's it going to stop, do you think, for him?
Well, when he's not good enough, I suppose.
Yeah, he's still competing at a really high level.
And he's still, doing well?
Yes, Nath. And I think, the number one thing, if Kelly Slater comes to town, it's the biggest ticket in the town. It doesn't matter about the other guys. They're all great and everything, but they're not Kelly Slater, and they never will be.
How old is he?
52.
What's the oldest professional golfer?
That's an interesting one because you can go on to... Okay, so just on the normal tour, I think you can play till about 55.
Yeah.
Doing well. Harry's just going to look it up. But here's the thing about professional golf. Once you've finished on the normal tour and you start dropping off the perch, right, you're going down the ladder, you can go and play on the seniors circuit and be the young guy and still hit at 300 metres and get paid $1 million.
Is there a seniors surf circuit?
No, there is not. I think we found something.
Idea.
I think we found something.
We have some follow through.
And it's just Kelly Slater.
Exactly. Mark Occhilupo would get out there, for sure. And finally, we're going to talk to Pav just after 8 o'clock, in fact, about the AFL. They're calling it a scandal. Now, Andrew Wilkie, who's an independent MP, last night at Federal Parliament decided to get up, and he said he had information from a doctor that had written to him and also former president of the Melbourne Football Club saying that the AFL allowed drug cheating. So what he's suggesting is that when this guy's time at Melbourne, there was players who came in, they did a drug test. If they had acknowledged that they might have taken illicit drugs in the last, 48 hours.
But this drug test was one they did separately, just them.
That's what he's saying. They did one.
Not the official ones,
you test positive. They say, right, I know, fake an injury to a calf, and we'll rule a line through you. Otherwise, if you give the all clear, then away you go. You're a player. This is what he had to say in Parliament last night.
If there are no illegal drugs in the player's system, they are free to play. And if there are drugs in their system, the player is often asked to fake an injury. They're advised to lie about their condition, while the results of the off-the-book tests are kept secret and never shared with Sports Integrity Australia or WADA.
Wow. That's damning.
It is damning. I know that this would play out in Parliament because everyone will want to jump on the bandwagon and go, we demand answers and all that kind of stuff. We'll hear from Pav later on. If this is just an issue that's happened at the Melbourne Football Club, because there's been a lot of stones being thrown at them for a period of time by their former president, Glenn Bartlett, and he's been after the coach Simon Goodwin for quite some time as well.
Right.
So they've had a bit of a go at each other in court, and I think that's still playing out. But
there would have to be a big pile of truth compared to make it into Parliament. Wouldn't you know what I mean?
No, they make shit up.
Oh, no, I think what's happened is this doctor, I reckon he has approached either the club and or the AFL previously and nothing's happened. So the next logical step is then to
because once you bring something up in Parliament, you better have all your ducks in a line before you go down that way.
Parliament?
Because the doctor knew it was going to be brought up.
No, but I'm saying about the parliamentary.
The doctor's put his name against
his name's on it.
His name on it.
Yeah.
No. Getting back to if this was happening at Melbourne, which he was the doctor at.
Yes.
I find this unbelievable that he would go along with it, first of all, and the Melbourne Football Club, whoever is in charge of that, was thinking, hey, we're cheating like anyone else we've seen in professional sport along the journey, like in the Olympics and stuff. I find that unbelievable, but also I don't not believe that part of it. But he's pointing the finger at the whole AFL and other clubs. That wouldn't be happening at all.
Well, we don't know that.
Is he pointing the finger at all of them? The politician might be, but the doctor's not.
Sorry, Nathan, the politician who's making these
experience is the Melbourne Football Club, but the politician is saying it's a more... Yeah.
Politicians are going to do whatever they're going to do with information. They're going to spin it. They'll spin it. But like this doctor feels like, I mean, if you're a doctor and you're aligning your professional name next to something, like I said, you pretty want to have all your ducks in a row and say, well,
here's all the information.
Because what would you have to gain?
Yes.
To make that up.
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. That is crazy.
Shaun Sport is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.